Eso ahí, niña, con un helicóptero. No se ve bien porque es de noche, pero ahorita sí se ve, la cosa no estaba grabando. Papá, quédate tranquilo. Allá va uno, no se ve, no sé si se ve. Mira, allá donde se ve. Se lo tapó ya la montaña. Están atacando, eso creo que es la vaina de Delcy, la casa de Delcy Rodríguez, si no me equivoco. Allá están los helicópteros. ¿Lo ves? ¿Cómo le disparan, weón? Vaina por aquí.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to another special episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. Ooh, yeah. Allegedly, members of the United States Army's Delta Force, better known as CAG, or the Delta Boys, if you will, ended up going in with assistance from the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment and capturing Nicolas Maduro overnight inside of Venezuela. Trump is scheduled to address the nation in about 30 minutes. We are watching his speech from Mar-a-Lago, making sure it goes live. He has been Maduro has been taken and brought back to the United States. Pam Bondi announced just a couple hours ago that he is going to be brought up on a lot of different federal charges here in the United States of America, and he's going to get tried in a New York court. Going to have that for you guys here in just a little bit so that you guys are tracking on that. And while we're waiting on the president to go live today, we're going to be going back over the entire operation, kind of how it went down. Didn't take very long. You're looking about maybe an hour total on the ground for the boys when they ended up going in and capturing them. Trump made this announcement just a couple of hours ago. He said the United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolas Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. This operation was done in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement. Details to follow. There will be a news conference today at 11 a.m. at Mar-a-Lago. Thank you very much for your attention on this matter. So I am prepped and ready to make sure, because the White House ought to be streaming this. If for some reason the White House doesn't stream it, then we'll make sure that we've got like the news sources and everybody else like pulled up and ready to go on that one so that you guys are able to see that and exactly what he has coming out of there. So that's what's going on there. But the interesting portion of this, Maduro and his wife and the charges that they got brought up on, I'll show you guys that here in just a little bit. It's pretty freaking insane. But 0 U.S. casualties have actually been reported out of this. Go ahead and give you guys a quick clip from Fox News, and I'm going to run you guys through start to finish timeline of the operation, what it looked like, different video footage from the ground. People are celebrating over inside of Venezuela this morning. They are extremely freaking pumped that this actually went down. So you guys should be pumped as well. House of Karma coming and gifting out 10 Speak the Truth memberships, and Commander Sergeant just saying thank you for covering this much love. Thank you. Thank you guys very much for those donations as we kick this sucker off on a Saturday morning. Let's go over, listen to Fox News, see what they had to say about this, and then we'll give you a rundown.
It seems to be an absolutely stunning mission to be able to drop in and take out a leader alive and remove him from the scene is just precision that's hard to comprehend at this point. And it really makes you wonder, how is this mission carried out? This is a dictator who has known for months he is under threat by the U.S., a dictator who has high levels of personal security, of mainly Cuban security. He doesn't even trust a lot of the Venezuelan military around him. So he has his hand-picked security. How is the U.S. able to go in there and reports now say, without any U.S. casualties, remove him from the scene? Was there any sort of deal made with Maduro? Was he able to accept any kind of deal, take his money, and leave the country? Or was this a flat-out, purely military capture operation? We're going to wait.
Oh, it was a military capture operation, and we're going to talk about that. Yesterday, I ended up telling you guys that there was a strike that ended up taking place outside of Caracas, not too far away. And I said, you guys need to make sure and watch as this stuff starts to go down. And months ago, we talked and we said that when Iran starts to have a revolution, when things like that start to pop off, you watch, you're going to see Iran and Venezuela shake off at the same time. And right now over inside of Iran, which I think is going to be next, which, by the way, Trump warned about, the United States, he warned Iran yesterday that we are locked and loaded for this color revolution, if you will, that's going on over there. All right, they're taken to the streets, they're throwing it up, and Trump warned Iran yesterday that the United States is locked and loaded should Iran decide to start killing their civilians. And then overnight at about 1:15 local time, we went in there and captured Maduro. How all of that kicked off, it started off with different airstrikes, as you guys saw in that first video, but that wasn't really an airstrike. That was kind of what you call like close combat aviation, probably, for what they ended up having down. As far as the timeline goes, about 1:30 a.m., this sucker kicked off. That ended up following air defense systems being hit first over inside Venezuela, followed by the Venezuelan MOD reports that the Venezuelan Ministry of Defense was struck, along with Venezuelan Central Intelligence. Followed by 2 additional port strikes. Assault package going in there was multiple CH-67Gs. Essentially, it's the SOCOM version of your CH-47, which is like the Chinook helicopter. And then allegedly 11 total H-64 Apaches also ended up hitting the ground there as well. So lots of different strikes ended up kind of taking place simultaneously, whacking Maduro on the ground over inside of Caracas as all of this was going down. Total time on target, it looks like between an hour to an hour and a half. Some people are suggesting it went all the way up to 3 hours. I really don't think it's that long. You got to figure those aircraft got to be able to kind of circle for a little while and then move the heck back. There's only so much fuel on board, et cetera, et cetera. So they only got so much loiter time, and you got to get them in and out. And details of that operation haven't necessarily been released yet, but that is as much as I have been able to figure from watching so far. Interesting enough as well, yesterday as this went down, I know I've talked to you guys before about the China Venezuela connection. Well, yesterday over inside Venezuela, it looks like a Chinese delegation was over there as well, shaking hands with Maduro. So in my opinion, this operation ended up kicking off kind of as a way to rub in China's face that we're not going to put up with their crap. They can ban their silver exports. They could, sanction U.S. defense companies. The IRGC obviously picking up fuel and funneling it over to China and getting a lot of money in return. That's funding their uranium production operations, as well as their ballistic missile operations over there. So taking out Maduro was very, very key to this. And undoubtedly with this Chinese delegation that ended up going over there yesterday and then kicking Maduro up in the middle of his sleep. Yeah, I think it was a bit of a rub in his face. Here is a news clip at the La Carlota Air Base in Caracas after it was struck by the U.S. bombing. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Este es el punto del ataque en la base aérea La Carlota. Podemos reportar que varias unidades de transporte civil fueron destruidas y creo que las imágenes son bastante claras al respecto. Vamos a meter un poco más el zoom. Ajá, ahí lo tenemos. Una unidad que fue destruida, en este caso un autobús rojo. Tenemos otra unidad que también fue destruida. Y otra unidad de transporte civil. Es importante destacar lo que fue la afectación causada por este ataque en la madrugada.
I'd love to tell you I know what they're saying there, but I don't speak a lick of Spanish. Sorry, it wasn't my language. My Russian's pretty lacking these days as well. But yeah, as you guys can see, lots of freaking impacts over there on the site. Lots of people and lots of things ended up getting destroyed. Got more video clips for you guys coming out of there as well. Lots of people had their cameras out capturing this stuff as it was going down. Allegedly, this is kind of like the moments where Maduro's compound was getting struck.
Señores, bombardeo Miraflores. Son las... ¿Qué hora es? Dime la hora. Dime la hora.
Son las 2 de la madrugada.
2 de la madrugada. Fuertes explosiones aquí en Miraflores. Estamos en la Plaza Oleari. Seguiremos informando. Señores, bombardeo.
Yeah, so those helicopters got captured pretty significantly. Whoo, hold on. Shush. Here's some more strikes for you guys coming in. But a lot of this stuff ended up getting captured. Like I said, it was 1 a.m. And in that video, you can even see that lady was still like in her dress. Looks like she was going out for the evening and it ended up getting captured. So here you go. People are saying no more peace. No, it's peace through strength. And actually doing things like this actually, defeats, in my opinion, doing things like this actually defeats and allows us to have peace in the future. So you're defeating the aggression before it ends up happening, but it was coming, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll explain that here in a little bit for those of you that don't know. Good morning to you, Pretty Eddie, or Petty Eddie. Excuse me, not Pretty Eddie, Petty Eddie. There's video number 1 that ended up coming out of that one. And here is the second video of those strikes.
Escuchan helicópteros, son las 1:58 de la mañana. Están atacando el fuerte Fiuna. Se escuchan helicópteros.
So you guys can kind of see how we've got those strikes that are taking place over there. And this whole operation, again, 0 U.S. casualties ended up getting reported out of this. And that's with Maduro knowing that this was coming. All right. And clearly, in my opinion, over the last, week or so, we've had different shaping operations that have been taking place over there in order to take his butt out. So, yeah. Gun Monkey says U.S. did in 3 hours and 0 casualties what Russia can't do in 4 years and 1 million dead. Yeah. Buddy of mine ended up stating this morning, Sam, ended up saying this morning, hey, Russia, this is how you conduct a special military operation. For those of you guys that don't know, Russia has been calling the entire war in Ukraine a special military operation. It's freaking mind-numbing. John says, good morning, Matt. This is great news to wake up to. I wonder how long until people here protest in the streets for his release. Thanks for all you do, sir. Dude, we're going to have U.S. senators that are over there protesting for his release. They're going to go visit him in federal prison and demand he gets taken out. It's going to be freaking nuts. Pat Loudon says, I thought the Democrats are for no kings, yet they condemn overturning. Yeah, no kidding, right? Yeah, that's freaking valid. Why the Democrats are pissed off that this guy of all people ends up getting removed is beyond me. Now, if you guys are talking about legal authorities in order to do so, yeah, he's a sitting president of another country. But in my opinion, we kind of circumvented the law here a little bit when we ended up designating Maduro, along with a lot of the other cartels over there, foreign terror organizations. In doing so, you're essentially giving the president the same authority that he had to go after Osama bin Laden, all right, and ripping Maduro out from power. Only this time we ended up capturing his butt and dragging him back here to the United States of America. Here's just a lovely view of some of those airstrikes reportedly coming out of Venezuela. That's just beautiful, man. That's just beautiful. Allegedly, that was a air base, if I remember correctly, that was kind of nearby that they ended up striking and taking out. Here is the U.S. Army's Delta Force infilling overnight. This is the only video I actually have of them actually infilling, and this is kind of what we confirm the aircraft to be coming in. Castle Survival says, I know Venezuelans who will be ecstatic in the UK. Yeah, Venezuelans are actually celebrating down inside of Florida as well here in the United States of America. Saw a couple videos of it, but I was like, meh, yeah, they're Americans now, so they can calm down. That's pretty freaking awesome. Like, to be perfectly honest with you, you guys can see them coming in overhead, then kind of like swooping and turning around and going back down. So one of you guys asked if the boys at 6 ended up conducting this operation. I got told it was the D-Boys, Delta, CAG, U.S. Army. All right. Now, that does not mean that guys from Team 6 were not involved in this. You know, there is operations that have taken place in the past that I have been told. Obviously, it was not CAG, nor was I on Team 6. But there is operations that I'm aware of that have taken place in the past, or so I've been told, to where you actually end up getting dudes pulled from each of those organizations, and then they end up having them work together to go after. I don't know if that's what ended up taking place here. It would be my assumption as well that you're not just going to have, just one infill team. You're going to have several. So it wouldn't surprise me if we did have members of the 75th Ranger Regiment that were on the ground as well, securing different or targeting different locations at the same time, kind of causing confusion. Because the last thing you want is to be on the ground for like an hour and have your freaking assault element get nailed. So it wouldn't surprise me if we had other dudes that were on the ground. What unit they came from hasn't been released yet. Maybe Trump will talk about it today. Here's a couple videos that ended up coming out. Ooh, stop. Here's a couple videos that ended up coming out. I'll go ahead and run through those for you guys. Yeah.
Mira, huevón, durísimo, chamo. Ya vas a ver un incendio, pero una vaina. Oye, marico, algo está pasando. Verga, marico. Ignacio, otra vaina en el aeropuerto, papá.
¿Para qué hacemos? ¿Para qué hacemos?
Aquí, acá.
¿Que se queda allá?
Sí. Ven.
All right. Castle Survival says, for those Venezuelans who live in the West, at least they can go home and see their families without fear of prison. I just hope there's a good future. You and me both, brother. You and me both. Jim O'Rourke coming in, gifting out 10 Speak the Truth memberships. Thank you, sir. And the devil you don't know, dropping $50, says, this is pretty incredible. Our military and service members and Trump deserve credit. Matt, do you think that Trump has been waiting for this as a coordinated effort against China and Russia to line up with Iran timing? Yes, I do. I really, really do. Because, let me finish playing these videos, man, and then I'm going to get to that. But I do think it's a coordinated effort because of everything I went over yesterday. That's a lot of information, and I want to make sure I'm able to cover that with everybody to make sure that they've kind of got a good thing. I want to finish running through some of these videos, but yes, I think it was a coordinated effort. William says, love your show. Comments are always relevant and the ground truth. Shep, Rangers lead the way. Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, man. It's always good to be supported by fellow vets. Love you guys to death. And it's amazing, who would have thought that we could have, gone from being stupid grunts to geopolitical experts, right? Who would have thunk it? Yes. I was technically away. Oh, here we go. Here's another video of their infill coming in.
Mamá huevo, qué locura. Moscaí. Mira esa mierda, explotaron allá toda esa mierda porque tú no estás explotando. Mierda, marico, se prendió el peo en esa mierda, ¿oyó? Huevo. Marico, llegamos a tiempo a la casa, ¿oyó? Marico, mira esa mierda.
All right, so we are, let me see here. I'm waiting to pull up the feed here for Trump live over at Mar-a-Lago, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys are just joining us and we're running through some of the other videos, went over the timeline for what went down, looking about 1:30 a.m. local time, and the U.S. started conducting airstrikes. Several different airstrikes ended up taking place over inside of Venezuela, and that was quickly followed by an infill of U.S. Special Operations troops who quickly captured Maduro, ripped his butt out of there, and we ended up, I don't know how to say this. We ended up taking him and his wife, bringing him back to the United States of America. Pam Bondi came out with the actual charges that they ended up filing on him. I think I actually put that up over here. Yeah, I sure did. So this is what Pam Bondi, and it's weird how policy via Twitter has kind of become the standard over here in this administration. But this is what Attorney General Pam Bondi said. She said, Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. Maduro has been charged with narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices against the United States. Crazy. I'd be very interested to listen to that charge and how they throw that one out there. They will soon face the full wrath of the American justice on American soil in American courts. On behalf of the entire U.S. Department of Justice, I would like to thank President Trump for having the courage to demand accountability on behalf of the American people, and a huge thank you to our brave military who conducted the incredible and highly successful mission to capture these two alleged international narco traffickers. Well said, Pam. Well said, Pamela. All right, let me get over here and handle some of these super chats as you guys are just dropping them like they're hot, so I can start addressing some of these. Let me go up here. Rolling down. Castle Survival says, yep, I already did that one. Jimmy coming in, giving out 10 Speak the Truth memberships. Devil, you don't know. This is pretty incredible. Our military and service members, Trump deserves credit. I read that one. Matt, do you think that Trump has been waiting for this? Yes, it's 100% coordinated, my friend. 1,000% coordinated. Adam DLC, I think this is the beginning and not the end. I would agree with you. Maduro's defense minister did not get killed, and he actually came out and was given a speech a little bit ago. Currently working on translating that sucker for you guys so that you have that. As soon as I get it translated, it'll be up over on my X. X-Reyes says, how big of an impact do you think this is going to make for Venezuela since Maduro's allies are still in power in the government? I think all of those things are going to continue to be in operation. So like I told you guys, this stuff didn't happen overnight. There's going to be people that are on the ground that are going to be making moves now to go oust him from power. The people are absolutely celebrating. Good question how that government transition is going to look. I doubt the United States would rip him out of power without having some sort of plan in the background for how that transition is going to happen. So we'll be watching that. But I doubt that they're going to be there for too much longer if they are today. My lady says, thank you for the truth and the explanations. Where's the AA and small arms fire Maduro claimed? Well, that's what preemptive fires were for. We actually ended up going up and striking those suckers before they even had the chance. See, we didn't even, like, their AA is only effective to a certain distance. They might be able to knock some things down, but all of that stuff wasn't captured on video. Nobody was expecting this to go down. I mean, there could have been shots fired into the sky trying to take down our munitions, but none of them ended up getting captured. At least I didn't see that crap going down. I don't know if you did. So, yeah, if you guys ended up seeing other ones, let me know, but I didn't see them at all. At least not yet reported. So if you guys end up seeing them come out, you guys let me know. Meanwhile, on the ground over inside Venezuela, people were celebrating all morning. All right, and I am currently watching over there. Haven't seen anything yet come out as far as Trump goes and starting a speech, but it looks like there is people that are kind of gathered around waiting on him, but nothing yet. He hasn't came out yet. I did want to be able to break this down for you guys while I have about 3,000 you guys in here watching the show over on YouTube, and also, you know, the 1,000 plus that are joined on X and people over on Rumble. Everybody welcome. But this is something that I ended up going over, trying to explain this to you guys. Venezuela is part of this major chain between China, Russia, and Iran. Iran's kind of central to it, and this is why, you know, we are kind of, you know, expecting this to happen at about the same time as Iran, because when you lay this out on paper and you take a look at it, Iran and Venezuela are pretty key to both China and Russia, all right, as it goes down. Russia has been using Hezbollah and Iran in the past in order to soak up munitions and to cause this persistent conflict over in the Middle East, and it's currently working, right? Israel is bombing the crap out of Hezbollah over inside of southern Lebanon. Obviously, you know, Iran's been a huge pain in their side over there, and Iran controls a lot of different proxy forces in the region, where Iran and Venezuela really come into play, and this is key here. While the U.S. is focused on narco-terrorism, obviously, you know, Nicolas Maduro, the amount of drugs that come into the United States of America, Venezuela isn't even in the top 5. It's not even the top 5 of countries that ships, you know, drugs into the United States of America. There's a much bigger threat that ends up coming out of them, and it's the global instability and the support of Russia and China. And so what you actually have, those ships that the U.S. ended up seizing that everybody is now aware of, those ships that got seized all came out and were being operated by the IRGC, and they pick up Venezuelan oil and they ship it over to China. All right. And the IRGC is like this radical militant wing that answers directly to the Ayatollah over inside of Iran. And so what they're doing was they were taking that oil, they were selling it to China, and they were using it to fund terrorism in the Middle East and spinning this thing in a circle. Obviously, China benefits from this. Obviously, Russia is going to benefit from this. Obviously, any of the BRICS nations are going to end up benefiting from this. But Iran, in addition to that, also controls the Houthis over inside Yemen, who were shutting down the Red Sea. That is why we saw the U.S. bombing the hell out of Yemen at the beginning of this year, trying to reopen the Red Sea. That was our goal, was to reopen the Red Sea for shipping routes. Russia really, really needs like their oil to be sold for under $60, $65 a barrel, or I'm sorry, over $60 to $65 a barrel. When the oil gets cheap, Russia loses. All right. Russia's like primary source of freaking income, 30% of their GDP comes from oil sales. Largest seller over to India, largest seller over to China. Iran also is like pretty dang close up there, but I ended up putting Iran on here because they end up sending a lot more over there as well. That's just not reported, right? That you guys don't know about. And so this is why Venezuela was key to wipe out, not to mention the Chinese and Russian influence that was going in on there. What you're essentially looking at is almost like a Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0. I had sources tell me that weapons were taken off the boats that were being shipped over inside Venezuela from the IRGC or China, or Russia, or both. All right, they weren't very specific about it, but some of the boats that the U.S. ended up going after was rumored that they ended up having weapons on there as well. Z, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name, but Z, I'm just going to call you Z. Congrats on taking care of business. Thank you very much. And of course, we are waiting for Trump to go live over at Mar-a-Lago. Haven't seen anything yet. Oh, looks like he is now about to go live. Let me get that pulled up for you guys. They're saying it's going to start shortly, and the White House just pulled it up. So we're currently waiting on that to happen. White House, again, just ended up going live. Should see that sucker coming up here in just a minute. Waiting on Trump to come up and give his whole speech. I'm going to refresh the White House page and see if that one's not already broadcasting. No, it's not yet. So this is what we're waiting on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, but this is it right here. That what I just went over is kind of the crux. United States has been in kind of a squeeze from China as well. All right, so I don't think it was a mistake that the United States ended up going in and capturing Maduro on the exact same day that China had a delegation over there visiting. All right. On January 1st, China ended up restricting silver exports. And so if I was to go back and reference that map for you guys and show you, what was up there, and we start talking about the flow of how everything goes down, Russia and this war in the Middle East are soaking up all these U.S. munitions and doing everything else. And so that soaking up of those munitions is pretty key. All right. For years over inside of Ukraine and for years over inside of the Middle East, we're going down. And what China, India did was they leveraged the silver market. And silver is needed, all right, for a lot of the production of U.S. weapons and equipment. All of your precision guided weapons, it's freaking crucial. And China ended up sanctioning, I want to say it was 27 different defense industry companies just before the end of the year. And obviously on 1/1, they restrict the exports on it for silver back to the United States of America. At the same time, Taiwan creates a bunch of microprocessors. Those things are also crucial for us to have. All right. We need those microprocessors as well. That's just not something that we can live without. Those things end up going into our smartphones, but they also go into the data centers and technology and all of this other crap. And oh, by the way, guidance systems. So as China is over, surrounding Taiwan, all right, we obviously don't want to go to war with China. I don't think that's going to be a zero casualty event. But as China is over there surrounding Taiwan, the United States of America, we're kind of worried about it. Because what they're essentially doing, what China essentially did was position themselves strategically on the global scale to corner America, to kind of choke off our defense industry. And Venezuela was a huge part of funding that and getting that down. And it happened to be taking place over in the U.S. hemisphere. So this is the United States sending a message to Venezuela that we are not going to be putting up with this stuff, that it is going to be going down. So that is exactly what happened. The United States went in, ripped out Maduro. He is not going to be, in power at all. That's just not going to happen. So over here, I'm watching, I'm tracking both the places that the White House is broadcasting this from. Neither of them has showed him going live yet. Got those pulled up, open on my screen over here. If you guys happen to see it, I guarantee you guys are going to drop it in the chat before I end up, because there's a lag. So you guys don't try to spam the chat. Don't be like, Matt, he's live. I understand that he's live. You guys are just dealing with the lag. So I want to get that out ahead of time so that you guys don't freak out about it. But rest assured, you will be seeing him live here in just a second as soon as he gets it from Mar-a-Lago. I want you guys to feel that. In the meantime, I want to show you guys some other stuff that ended up taking place over inside of Venezuela that morning as we're waiting on Trump to go live. Let me grab that video and pull it up. And again, Venezuela, crucial, absolutely crucial, okay? To this entire freaking what I'd call like the axis evil between Russia, China, and Iran. Venezuela was doing a bunch of laundering and sending oil via the IRGC. So Iran goes, picks up the oil from Venezuela, ships it over to China, who then gives Iran a buttload of money. Iran's paying Venezuela, so on and so forth. All of that's funding their uranium enrichment program and their ballistic missile program. So it's not a coincidence that we have these uprisings taking place over in Iran right now. And again, they're some of the most violent ones. They overran police stations. They're freaking chucking rocks at cops. They're doing all sorts of stuff, things that we haven't seen before. All right. Taking place over there. And they've now got AKs. They got all sorts of stuff. And so they're fighting back against the Iranian regime. So I don't think it's a coincidence that we knocked out Venezuela at the same time that Iran's got this going on. So my next prediction here is that Iran is going to end up having a regime change as well. So waiting on all of that, kind of to come through, and it's going to take a little bit of time, but it will in fact happen. What in the heck? What in the heck is this? No. That can't be real. That can't be real at all. Whoa. Hold on. Trump, he talked to Fox News already, and he hasn't even started speaking?
I've never seen anything like this. I was able to watch it in real time, and I watched every aspect of it, and I listened to the communication between, where we were in Florida and out in the field in Venezuela. And it was amazing to see the professionalism, the quality of leadership, the professionalism. General Raisin Gain is fantastic. Don't forget, we did another one not so long ago. It was called the knocking out of the Iranian nuclear threat, the nuclear power. And that was unbelievable what they did there. And this is something that, I don't know, it's amazing. And to have a few injuries, but no death on our side is really amazing. I've never seen.
All right. So that's the first time we've actually heard anybody say injuries, but we didn't have any deaths. So I guess we did have some injuries. Somebody tried stating that they said that one of the helicopters may have been hurt or injured in it. I haven't seen any of that. Wow. This looks like a Venezuelan live streamer captured the exact moment when bombs were hitting. And again, we're still waiting on Trump to go live. I'm monitoring on my end, so you guys don't have to. I'll let you guys know when he goes live. But as of right now, it's not broadcasting yet.
Y después van hacia arriba. ¿Sí? Si es por parte de su madre o parte...
That's freaking wild. Holy freaking cow, man. They actually got that captured. Whoa. So that goes to show you some of the very first airstrikes ended up knocking out the entire power grid. So immediately lights out before those sirens even went off. They didn't see it coming, man. Matt, Mods, and Nannerfam, appreciate all of you. Love this stream, Matt. God bless. Thank you, Mary Dean. Again, we are sitting here waiting for Trump to go live, recapping over some of the different footage that is coming out of Venezuela right now. So it's getting pretty freaking wild. The celebration is taking place over inside of Venezuela. What the hell, man? People have taken to the streets, baby. Look at that. See, like some people I see you guys are like, nope, that was fake. That's not real. I mean, you guys can say that stuff all you want, that it's fake, that it's not real. That is an AI official photo of Maduro after being captured. I don't know about that one. No, those people are not in proper uniforms. I call bullshit. That's an AI photo. Yeah, this is, there's lots of fake photos, by the way, of Maduro out there, saying that this is him after he was captured. I freaking doubt it. This is an old military uniform. So is this one. And he's just sitting there in perfectly dressed pajamas. Like, that does not appear to be real at all. And that doesn't look like an aircraft that I've ever been on. I could be wrong. But yeah, you people that are saying, that you know, they're not celebrating the streets, you're dead ass wrong. To be perfectly honest with you, still waiting on President Trump. He hasn't came back yet, but here's the people celebrating.
Señora que no ha parado de llorar desde que llegó, viene en pijama, como lo pueden ver, todavía ella está. Cuénteme un poco su reacción, cuénteme un poco qué sienta en este momento.
Esto no tiene comparación. Gracias, Dios mío. Gracias, Dios. Me arrodillé y lloré en mi casa por él. Es un milagro. Salimos.
Muchas gracias. Por aquí también vemos parte de la juventud venezolana en lágrimas, porque hace rato sonaba una canción en la que todos nos pusimos prácticamente a llorar aquí en el arepaso del Doral. Cuéntame qué se...
Mucha emoción, el ambiente es impresionante y el ambiente te cautiva, y uno estar en el momento y tener esto como una experiencia única en la historia es increíble.
¿Cuántos años tienes?
19.
¿Parte de tu vida o tu vida entera la has vivido ya esperando que esto suceda? ¿Cuántos años tienes viviendo aquí en Estados Unidos?
Tenía 11 años.
¿Tus padres en dónde están?
¿Disculpa?
¿Tus padres están aquí contigo?
Sí, mis padres están acá, ellos vinieron, mi papá fue alcalde de la oposición y fue perseguido político, y bueno, él vino para acá para simplemente huir y que nosotros tengamos una buena educación, y es muy loco que de un día para otro, yo a las 2 de la mañana parado, de la nada veo un video y después veo otro video, y yo dije, está pasando en realidad. Es muy surreal, pero lo que hay que disfrutarlo.
Muchas gracias. Seguimos compartiendo con las personas que se...
Estoy feliz porque yo soy hermana de Jordi Suárez, un muerto político. Cuando en las guarimbas tuve que emigrar por ese régimen, y me siento feliz porque a nosotros nos quitaron un hermano, un hijo, un tío. Estoy feliz, se está haciendo justicia por toda esa sangre derramada que hubo en Venezuela. ¡Feliz! ¡Venezuela libre! ¡Qué emoción! ¡Dios mío! ¡Te adoro, Venezuela! ¡Qué emoción!
Wow, man. For anybody that says that, like, look at that lady's freaking excitement, man. For anybody that says, like, the Venezuelan people didn't want this crap to happen, or that the people that are currently taking the streets in the daylight is garbage, I want you guys to start taking a look at some of these videos around here, because people are going to bring that up. People are going to say that. It's just not the case. I mean, people hated Maduro. Mr. Slendy says, destabilize Iran, storming Venezuela, and all I got was an Operation Enduring Freedom patrol around an empty desert. F my life. I never get to have any fun. Dude, that was, yeah, people do not understand. Like, your experience may vary in the global war on terror. Some people got to sit around and hang out, you know, and barbecue next to Saddam's pools every day. Other people, not so much. Other people got to wander around through the desert hoping people would shoot at them. Other people got dropped in the hottest places on the freaking planet. So, I mean, it just depends. Mary Dean says, Matt, I love all you do. Matt, love all of you. The video is insane. The Delta Force did go in. Maduro and his wife were captured and are being flown into Noriega. A lot of them feel freedom, new beginnings, prayers for peace to all. Be safe. I would assume that was the next portion of that. Well, thank you very much, Mary Dean. Greatly appreciate that. And again, we're waiting on Trump to go live right now, monitoring the speech. White House does have showing, that they're live, but they haven't actually brought it up yet. So again, waiting for Trump to start a speech from Mar-a-Lago. And I think that might be one of the funniest parts about all of this crap is that, you've got the White House saying, prepare, we're going to be going live again here shortly. Yep, we went over and captured Nicolas Maduro. Trump says that he watched the entire thing go down. We didn't have anybody get hurt. Well, we had people get hurt allegedly, but we haven't had anybody get killed. Not a single U.S., aircraft, I don't think, was lost. Everything came out, got pulled off freaking flawlessly as far as we can tell. People are celebrating. I haven't even heard reports of civilians getting killed over inside of Venezuela. Nobody's even complained about that yet, which is wild to me. So this was a very, very precise operation. NORMAC 1994 says, remember when Iraq fell, they looted everything that wasn't bolted down. That's actually true, man. Yeah, and Venezuela, I think, is a different beast. And you still do have different people of the government. We just ripped Maduro out. That doesn't mean that everything's down, but they did take a lot of people down. I did see that his defense minister was still alive and had put out a speech video. It's about like 8 or 9 minutes long. I hadn't seen a translation of it yet, but I will be translating it. He's saying that they're not going to give up, that it's not over, but it seems to me like the people on the street really do feel like it's over, man. Here's some more videos coming out of there. Yeah.
Aquí celebraron hoy los venezolanos la captura de Nicolás Maduro y su esposa. Hoy son libres.
Just look at that crap, man. That's freaking insanity, dude. People are so freaking happy. It's not even funny. Absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. Oh, man. Oh, my goodness. That's freaking wild, dude. Everything that they have going on out there. Yeah. More videos, photos. I'm not sure who this was, but they are now in a crumpled pile of metal. This is reportedly coming out of Venezuela. Robert Turkla undercover. Yo, Matt, how about we go after the cartels? Orderly Chaos coming in, gifted out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. We did go after the cartels. Dang it. Free J coming in, says, hi from Israel. Trump is the greatest president ever. Lebanon next, please. Well, I think before Lebanon falls, you're going to look at Israel. I think Israel is going to have like a ground invasion of Lebanon again. Truthfully, I think you're going to end up seeing Israelis on the ground inside of southern Lebanon again, and then they're going to be going over and smashing Iran. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we're waiting for Trump to start his speech. He was supposed to be live addressing the nation, according to his own words, 15 minutes ago. But he's the president. He's allowed to take his time, I guess, after, removing Maduro. And congrats to the U.S. service members that pulled this off. Thank God none of you guys got killed or injured. Very, very happy in case you guys are out there watching this on the odd chance that one of you guys actually see this. So thank you guys very much for what you did and coming home alive. All right. This is footage of the U.S. strikes at the port of LaGuardia this morning over inside of Venezuela. Let's get that up. It's a short video. Question that came in. Do you think, from Andrew, do you think that Trende Aragua cells in the U.S. have marching orders to react in case this were to happen? I mean, dude, it's possible, but what are they going to do? I predicted a while ago that when we start actually waging war on these narco terrorists, that you will see an uptick in violence here in the United States of America. We haven't seen it yet. And personally, I think, that is the purpose. You guys start looking at this. Why did the United States conduct mass deportations? Why are we going after just ripping people out? And you see the different gang members that have been getting kicked out of the United States of America with these different ICE operations and everything else. And I believe that all of that is part, like it's one big shaping operation. We've got so many illegals inside of the United States of America. They estimate, over 20 million that ended up coming in just under Biden alone. And so those people coming into the United States and ICE and CBP, and DHS agents just all around the United States ripping these folks out, I think that's a huge part of it. And they have had a lot of those different narco-terrorist gang members that have been arrested and deported, right? Or thrown into jail, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we have been getting rid of them left and right. And I think that the U.S. deportation operations here in the United States is likely your shaping operations that were leading into this. Right. And then at the same time, timing things out. Personally, I think it was timed out with Israel because we ended up seeing Bibi go to Trump the other day and say, hey, look, man, we think that Iran is going to end up dropping these bombs or they're going to end up attacking Israel again. And so Trump ended up going over to get behind him. Trump clearly stated that if Iran ends up killing civilians, that he's going to go in, and that the United States is locked and loaded. Orderly Chaos says 3.8K in here, 700 likes. Yeah, guys, like the stream. What is wrong with you guys? Like the stream. Make sure you're following the channel if you guys are not right now. Andrew Ganger, thank you very much for that. I hope I was able to answer your question. Newell Russell says, thanks, Matt. No, thank you, Neil. I appreciate that. Let's keep this rolling as we wait on Trump to give his speech. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we are waiting on Trump to go live from the, well, it's not the White House, it's Mar-a-Lago, but just so you guys know, I'm tracking that so you guys do not have to. And in the meantime, while we're waiting on Trump to come out and give his speech for exactly what ended up going down, or the way forward, we will have that up for you guys on your screen as soon as he ends up going live. Don't you worry about that. Pam Bondi, if you guys are just joining us and didn't catch it earlier, ended up making a statement on the charges against Nicolas Maduro here in the United States of America. She says Maduro and his wife, Cecilia Flores, have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. Nicolas Maduro has been charged with narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices against the United States. They will soon face the full wrath of the American justice on American soil in American courts. On behalf of the entire US DOJ, I would like to thank President Trump for having the courage to demand accountability on behalf of the American people. A huge thank you to our brave military who conducted the incredible and highly successful mission to capture these two alleged international narco traffickers. So the United States didn't even grant freedom to his wife. The United States is holding his wife accountable as well, which is going to be very, very interesting. How freaking wild would that be if the U.S. hung Maduro and his wife? I mean, they're going to send him probably in the Supermax over inside Colorado and have him hanging out over in there, as far as for I don't know, for freaking forever. But again, we are waiting on the White House to go live from Mar-a-Lago for Trump's, I don't even know if you call this a victory speech or anything like that. I don't know what you would call it. So we're waiting on that sucker to come in, ladies and gentlemen, so don't go anywhere. I'm tracking it so you guys do not have to. Waiting on Trump's speech. He was supposed to be live about 18 minutes ago, so it should be any minute now. He's going to be going live. So hang tight, ladies and gents. He's coming in. In the meantime, we're going to go back. We're going to be going over some of this different footage that has came out of Maduro. This was Trump live on Fox and Friends talking about the operation.
What did those off-ramps look like?
Well, basically, I said you have to give up. You have to surrender. And he was close. But in the end, I really didn't. We had to do something that was really much more surgical, much more powerful. This was much more powerful than anything we could have done. This is amazing. And we learned a lot. We learned a lot of things, but this was a very important symbol. And I had discussions. I actually spoke to him myself, but I said, you have to give up. You have to surrender.
When did you speak to him?
He was not willing. A week ago. A couple of times, but a week ago.
So a week ago, Maduro says that he was willing to kind of come around, but he ended up not doing it. Allegedly, what ended up coming out of those talks was Maduro was asking for his wife to basically be let to go free, and I don't think Trump wanted to allow that to happen either. Joe Klein says Venezuelans seem to like rugged individualism. I have no idea what Venezuelans like, to be perfectly honest with you. Not my culture, never had been. Not familiar with the Venezuelan culture either. But they are freaking getting it over there. They are lighting, no kidding. There is billboards of Nicolas Maduro that have been getting pulled down and lit on fire. Yeah, buddy. All right. Trump, we are waiting on you, sir. Why don't you have your butt back over here? Trump, next clip, Trump discussing what's next for the Venezuelan people.
Moving forward for Venezuela, what do you think is next for the Venezuelan people now that you have removed Maduro so that he can face American justice?
Well, we're making that decision now. We can't take a chance on letting somebody else run and just take over where he left off. So we're making that decision now. We'll be involved in it very much. And we want to do liberty for the people. We want to, have a great relationship. I think the people of Venezuela are very, very happy because they love the United States. They were run by essentially a dictatorship or worse. It couldn't have been worse. It was a terrible thing that was taking place in Venezuela. But look, tremendous numbers of people were being killed through drugs. And what they did to our country in sending prisoners and people from mental institutions and drug lords and everything, they sent them by the hundreds of thousands of people into our country. And that is just unforgivable.
Yep, unforgivable. Adam DLC says, unless we get boots on the ground, nothing changes. I mean, who says we don't? Let's wait and see what ends up happening. And Trump, like he said, we're looking at doing that right now, believe it or not. Wes, do you think that the bad three countries are going to retaliate on our troops in different bases around the world? And why don't we send some of our ships towards and around Taiwan? We did move an aircraft carrier over to that region, if my memory serves me correctly, over there. But right now, well, at least under the Biden presidency, he had stated that the United States is not going to defend Taiwan if China invades. And that was the last statement I think I heard the United States government make about Taiwan and what the United States government would or wouldn't do. It actually came out underneath the Biden administration saying that we wouldn't be defending Taiwan, that we'll be sanctioning, that we'll be pushing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what the U.S. is doing right now is sending that message over to China. I think China thought they kind of had us by the balls. Same thing with Russia. China, Russia, and Iran kind of all kind of orchestrated this whole little deal over inside of Venezuela. So let's kind of wait and see what happens. Let's see what ends up coming out of there. And maybe we will, maybe we won't get some, good resolve out of this. And I think it ought to kind of push China back on their heels a little bit for going after Venezuela, but for going after Taiwan. But there's always a chance that China says, you know what, if you want to rip people from power, if you just think you can go in and take over places, we're going to do the same, and they're going to one up. And it's possible that actually ends up happening. In the meantime, let's go over and take a look as we wait on Donald Trump to be live from Mar-a-Lago, being broadcast by the White House. As we sit here waiting on Trump to go live from Mar-a-Lago, let's go over and check out some of the celebrations over. This is allegedly coming out of Miami.
La veo muy emocionada llorando. ¿Cómo se siente? Cuéntanos por qué llora.
Felicidad, tantos años esperar esto, Señor. Gracias, Señor. Ay, Dios mío, esta es una alegría inmensa. Gracias, Señor. Gracias al presidente de Estados Unidos. Yo lo estoy esperando hace años. Cómo he sufrido, cómo no han hecho daño, cómo han matado a mis hermanos. Ay, esto ha sido horrible, mira.
¿Cuántos años tiene usted aquí en los Estados Unidos? ¿Hace cuánto se fue de Venezuela?
Ay, tenemos aquí 8 años ya. 8 años porque nos mataron al hermano mayor y fue fuerte, hermano. Secuestraron a mis hermanos, eso fue fuerte. Y doy gracias a Dios por todo esto, porque ha sido fuerte.
Muchas gracias. ¿Su nombre?
Yajaira.
¿De qué parte de Venezuela?
De Maracaibo.
De Maracaibo. ¿Y qué le dice a las personas que están viendo en este momento toda esta emoción de los venezolanos, a los venezolanos que han sido el centro de atención de las noticias, tanto por lo que ocurre en Venezuela como por el éxodo de los venezolanos, los migrantes venezolanos?
Fuerza, que sí se puede, que tuvieran paz y fe, como yo tengo 27 años esperando esto, que sí se puede, que tengan esperanza de todo, que vamos a ser un país libre, próspero y que todos vamos a salir a disfrutar este momento.
That was a very good question that just ended up coming in as well from Rebecca. She says, do you think that there was a tactical change in the current operation? I saw speculation about the implementation of Israeli learned methods. No, I don't think there was necessarily a tactical change. I think what you ended up having was a new commander-in-chief that ended up coming in. That would be Donald Trump, and that he ended up cutting SOCOM loose. I don't know how to state this. I know Israeli intelligence is very good about what they do, and I know they're very good about pulling things off. I don't think most people around the world have seen what SOCOM is capable of, like the United States Special Operations Command. Do I think that Israel might have given some technology? Do I think they might have lent some advice? That's possible, but but in large, you know, when we're looking at what's taking place on the ground, textbook operations, I am quite positive that there was other things that were taking place behind the scenes that the United States doesn't speak of, that I am not going to tell you about, that happened in order to make that operation crank off the way in which it did, to where nobody ends up getting hurt and Maduro ends up getting yanked out. I think we are more than capable of that as a government and as a country. I think the difference is, you know, Israeli intelligence ends up doing some wild stuff that is just not approved of over here in the United States of America. So, yeah. Normac says, scoop up Mamdani and his wife too. They're gonna shoot themselves in the foot, man. I'm not worried about Mamdani up over in New York. He's gonna shoot himself in the foot. It's gonna happen. He will absolutely shoot himself in the foot at one point. Not too worried about it. Yeah. I mean, people are, dude, they are losing it in the streets over in freaking Florida, man. That's not even the United States, excuse me. That's outside the United States. But Venezuelans, dude, bro, everybody is celebrating against this guy. They want his butt gone. Here's a view of the airbase that ended up getting hit right outside there, and it's a Russian Buk missile system that ended up getting smashed is what you're actually looking at. So the how do I want to say this? The air defense assets that Russia has provided to now Venezuela and Iran have both fallen extremely short during these airstrikes and have just been getting crushed by U.S. munitions. All right. So in the strikes back in June for the 12-day war over in Iran, they had S-3 and S-400 systems over on the ground. And here you've got a Buk that got smashed as well.
Y actualmente las reacciones internacionales son de completo agravio y estupor ante lo que está ocurriendo. Si estamos transmitiendo en vivo todavía, este es el punto del ataque en la base aérea de La Carlota. Podemos reportar que varias unidades de transporte civil fueron destruidas y creo que las imágenes son bastante claras al respecto. Vamos a meter un poco más el zoom. Ajá, ahí lo tenemos. Una unidad que fue destruida, en este caso un autobús rojo. Tenemos otra unidad que también fue destruida y otra unidad de transporte civil. Es importante destacar lo que fue la afectación causada por este.
See that? Somebody says True Social Nicolas Maduro on board the USS Iwo Jima. Yeah, I mean, they're going to ship his butt back to the United States of America. He's not going to sit on that ship for very long. They're going to move him back out safe and sound back here in the United States pretty damn quick. Hunter Biden is cut off. Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to talk about the Hunter Biden interview that I watched on Sean Ryan. It's 5 hours long. 2, it is the most mind-numbing content. Like, listening to Hunter Biden, as the kids would call it, brain rot, absolute brain rot as far as I'm concerned. What freaking Hunter Biden, that dude's out of control. Again, we're still waiting on the White House to go live from Mar-a-Lago to broadcast Trump's speech. It looks like he has been going around talking to different news organizations, holding up the entire America for the betterment of Fox News, I guess. But hopefully we end up hearing from him here in a little bit. He should be coming up here in just a little bit. FBI assets already en route for transportation. That's good to know. It's also, you know, I heard, you know, we worked in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement on this, which is kind of weird to me for that operation to be going down and in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement. But I mean, I guess it is what it is. Let me start thinking about it. So let's go ahead and keep on going down. Here is Trump discussing Maduro's capture over on Fox and Friends this morning.
Well, it wasn't meant to be, and we're very friendly with her. She's a good woman, but the cartels are running Mexico. She's not running Mexico. The cartels are running Mexico. And we could be politically correct and be nice and say, oh, yes, she is. No, she's very, she's very frightened of the cartels. They're running Mexico. And I've asked her numerous times, would you like us to take out the cartels? No, Mr. President. No, please. So we have to do something because we lost. The real number is 300,000 people, in my opinion. You know, they like to say 100,000. 100,000 is a lot of people, but the real number is 300,000 people. And we lost it to drugs, and they come in through the southern border, mostly the southern border. Plenty come in through Canada, too, by the way, in case you don't know. But they come in through the southern border, and something's going to have to be done with Mexico. Well, it wasn't.
Something's going to have to be done with Mexico. I got a feeling you don't have the balls to go in there and do what needs to be done, but we'll see what ends up happening. Incock Faraday says, thank you for the weekend update. Thank you, Incock Faraday, for your donations. And Daniel Lyons coming in. He says, if in Trump's speech, he tells the Ayatollah to surrender or else, I'm going to crap myself. Dude, it is possible that he does come out and warn the Ayatollah, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I wouldn't be surprised if he did right now. All of this, ladies and gentlemen, for the thousands of you that are in here watching us right now, I put out an infographic yesterday, and it's important for you guys to understand. As we're sitting here waiting on Trump to go live, White House hasn't brought him up yet. We'll refresh to make sure that he's not up yet, but we've been sitting here watching on the backside. He hasn't been going live yet. But it's important for you guys to understand this right here. Why we ended up doing what we did. The United States is saying that it's about drugs. And to be quite frank, Venezuela isn't even in the top 5 of countries that ship drugs in the United States of America. What it is, though, is in cooperation with Russia, China, and Iran and the IRGC, and particularly the money laundering that's taking place. IRGC taking oil. So Iran taking oil from Venezuela, selling it to China, and then the money ends up going back into Iran, and it ends up funding their ballistic missile program, and it ends up funding their uranium enrichment. Russia, at the same time, is also supplying the scientists that Iran needed in order to kick this off. So when we were sitting around wondering what's taking so dang long for us to bomb the crap out of Iran, when they had enriched uranium up to 87%, why it was taking the United States so long to get on board with that is because Russia had its scientists over inside of Iran. And I don't think Trump wanted to kill Russian scientists because that would have started a whole crap storm. Allegedly, what had happened was Russia taking all of their nuclear scientists, if you will, and shoved them into one location before we started bombing, but they remained on the ground. And Iran has been sitting on the international stage forever, stating that they are going to continue to enrich uranium. They're not going to back off. And they're pushing their rhetoric even harder, stating that they're going to continue to attack Israel and U.S. bases in the region if the U.S. and Israel end up making this an issue over there. Last week over at the UN, the U.S. representatives ended up giving basically a handout, extending an olive branch, telling Iran that they need to take that handout or something bad's going to happen. Yesterday, Trump ended up coming out with a tweet stating that if Iran ends up killing any of the protesters over inside of Iran right now, that the United States is locked and loaded and ready to go. And there has been a massive uprising over in Iran. And I do not think it is a coincidence at all that Venezuela is falling at the exact same time that Iran is. And I think what Trump is doing was he used the narco-terrorism stuff. He used the drug excuse. He used all of those different laws to kind of circumvent, because obviously if the U.S. is going to go rip a leader from power, right, we're going to have to go to Congress for that, declare war. We've got some issues taking place. If we're going to go start removing these guys from power, we're going to get congressional approval for that. But if we label Maduro narco-terrorist, all of a sudden we can rip him out of power and not a single Democrat can whine and complain about it. And so to me, that's what ended up happening. And when we look at Iran's situation and we've got the Ayatollah and we've got the regime, and that fall is about to happen at the exact same time, that, in my opinion, is what we're looking at. And that's what makes Venezuela so crucial, because we ended up cutting off China, we ended up cutting off Russia, and we ended up cutting off Iran, affecting all 3 of those countries with this one move all the way down over there at the bottom. And all of those countries are involved over in Iran. Yesterday, China had a special council, if you will, that was over inside of Venezuela that ended up meeting up with Maduro. I don't think that is a coincidence either, that Trump had gone in there and taken out Maduro the same day that China had a what do you call them? Their representatives over there as they were doing that. And so, yes, we are sitting here and we are waiting right now for Trump to go live from Mar-a-Lago, pulling up and listening to some Fox News clips. Trump went over and gave an interview to Fox News, and we'd been talking through what some of the stuff was doing. This, allegedly, according to Donald Trump, is Nicolas Maduro. Now, this might be real, but we'll find out. So, Nicolas Maduro on the USS Iwo Jima, that looks a little bit more about right, oddly enough. I think Trump might not be lying about that one. I would predict that one is correct, that picture is correct, which is freaking baller. Like, good on him for getting taken out. Oh, man. So Donald Trump gave a full 26-minute interview to Fox. Wow.
So you've had quite a busy evening. Tell us about it.
It was slightly busy, I would say. It was very dark all over, especially in Venezuela. The team did an incredible job. They rehearsed and practiced like nobody's ever seen. And I was told by real military people that there's no other country on earth that can do such a maneuver. If you would have seen what happened, I mean, I watched it literally like I was watching a television show. And if you would have seen the speed, the violence, they say that, the speed, the violence, they use that term. It was an amazing thing, an amazing job that these people did. There's nobody else could have done anything like it.
You're at Mar-a-Lago right now. How were you able to watch this?
Well, we watched it from a room. We had a room, and we watched it, and we watched every aspect of it. We were surrounded by lots of people, including generals, and they knew everything that was happening, and it was very complex, extremely complex, the whole maneuver, the landings, the number of aircraft, which were a massive number, the number of helicopters, a different type of helicopters, different type of fighter jets. We had a fighter jet for every possible situation. And they just broke in, and they broke into places that were not really able to be broke into, steel doors that were put there for just this reason, and they got taken out in a matter of seconds. I've never seen anything like it, actually.
And you were able to watch this in real time.
Yeah, and don't forget, I've done some pretty good ones in other parts of the world. Okay, I've done some pretty good ones, but I've never seen anything like this. I was able to watch it in real time, and I watched every aspect of it, and I listened to the communication between, where we were in Florida and out in the field in Venezuela. And it was amazing to see the professionalism, the quality of leadership.
I want you guys to think about that for a hot minute. The United States is so baller that Trump was able to literally watch the point man going in and conducting these assaults, like from Florida. Just hanging out, watching the point man, like breaching freaking steel doors and stuff as all of this is going on, and listening to like the communications and stuff as it's going down. That's how baller the United States is. Sky God came in with 50, and he says, "What's your favorite type of arepa?" Which I had to look up. I had no idea what the heck it was. That's bread, flat bread between Venezuela, Colombia, stuff like that. I don't have a favorite type, man, but the foot bread over in the Middle East always kept me pretty happy.
Appreciate you being here.
All right, looks like we're starting.
Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones, like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi, and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer. All perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark, and it was deadly. but captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York, it's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, like never before. These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea, just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far. With capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have, and you see that even if you just look at the boats. You know, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average, 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela, and that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now. And what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans. Hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now, they're on a ship they'll be heading to, ultimately, New York, and then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami or Florida. But we have people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law, and I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold suffering and human destruction all over the country, all over in particular the United States, Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide, and he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete, and everybody, and our National Guard, because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago, a little bit of a different kind of a threat, but we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have on average two a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening. Everyone's happy. They're walking their daughters. They're walking their children, their wives. They walk to restaurants. Restaurants are opening all over Washington, D.C. So I want to thank the National Guard. I want to thank our military. And I want to thank law enforcement. It's been amazing. And they should do it with more cities. We're doing it, as you know, and we're doing it in Memphis, Tennessee right now, and crime is down. We've just sort of started a few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And the governor of Louisiana called, great person, and he wanted us to help him, as you know, in a certain very nice part of Louisiana. And we have done that. And it was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks. New Orleans, it's down to almost nothing, and we've only been there for 2.5 weeks. Can't imagine why governors wouldn't want us to help. We also helped, as you know, in Chicago, and crime went down a little bit there. We did a very small help because we had no working ability with the governor. The governor was a disaster and the mayor was a disaster, but it knocked down crime. But we're pulling out of there. When they need us, we'll know. You'll know. You'll be writing about it. And likewise, Los Angeles, where we saved Los Angeles early on, where the head of the police department made a statement that if the federal government didn't come in, we would have lost Los Angeles. That's long after the fires. That's when they had the riots in Los Angeles. We did a great job. Got no credit for it whatsoever, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We don't need the credit. But we'll be pulling out when they need us. They'll call, or we'll go back if we have to. We'll go back. But we did a great job in various cities. But the place that we're very proud of is Washington, D.C., because it's our nation's capital. We took it from being a crime-ridden mess to being one of the safest cities in the country. But the gangs that they sent raped, tortured, and murdered American women and children. They were in all of the cities I mentioned, Tren de Aragua. And they were sent by Maduro to terrorize our people, and now Maduro will never again be able to threaten an American citizen or anybody from Venezuela. There will no longer be threats. For years I've highlighted the stories of those innocent Americans whose lives were so heartlessly robbed by this Venezuelan terrorist organization. Really one of the worst. One of the worst, they say the worst. Americans like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungari from Houston. Beautiful Jocelyn Nungari, what happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Tren de Aragua animals. They murdered Jocelyn and left her dead under the bridge. There was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions. They sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers. They were drug kingpins. They sent everybody bad into the United States, but no longer. And we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and sold American oil, American assets, and American platforms, costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property. We built it. And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. Instead, they fought wars that were 10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill, and the socialist regime stole it from us during those previous administrations, and they stole it through force. This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. Considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country. Massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, so we didn't do anything about it. I would have done something about it. America will never allow foreign powers to rob our people or drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did. Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night. Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries. And not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Donroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. So just in concluding, for decades, other administrations have neglected or even contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, we are reasserting American power in a very powerful way in our home region. And our home region is very different than it was just a short while ago. The future will be, and we did this in my first term. We had great dominance in my first term, and we have far greater dominance right now. Everyone's coming back to us. The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security. These are core to our national security. Just like tariffs are, they've made our country rich, and they've made our national security stronger than ever before. But these are the iron laws that have always determined global power. And we're going to keep it that way. We will secure our borders. We will stop the terrorists. We will crash the cartels. And we will defend our citizens against all threats, foreign and domestic. Other presidents may have lacked the courage or whatever to defend America, but I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives. Very importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American Armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist, Maduro, is finally gone, and Venezuela people are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free. America is a safer nation this morning. It's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And the Western Hemisphere is right now a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank General Raisin Kane. He's a fantastic man. I've worked with a lot of generals. I worked with some I didn't like. I worked with some I didn't respect. I worked with some that just weren't good. But this guy is fantastic. I watched last night one of the most precise attacks on sovereignty. I mean, it was an attack for justice. And I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who I'm going to ask to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Finally, a commander-in-chief the world respects and the American people deserve. And as the president said, words can barely capture the bravery and the power and the precision of this historic operation. A massive joint military and law enforcement raid flawlessly executed by the greatest Americans our country has to offer. American warriors are second to none, the best in the world and the best of our country. What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry and glory of the American warrior. I'm simply humbled by such men. And I tip my hat to our chairman, Dan Raisin Kane, and all those Americans who stood watch last night. Our warriors are the elite of America, and again, President Trump has your back. No other country on planet Earth, and it's not even close, could pull this kind of operation off. And no other president has ever shown this kind of leadership, courage, and resolve, the most powerful combination the world has ever seen. As the president said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country. Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people. Deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us. And deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026. And under President Trump, America is back. I'd like to welcome now our Chairman Raisin Cain, to give a few more details about the operation. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. Last night, on the order of the President of the United States and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, as the President said, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro. This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours of January 2nd and was the culmination of months of planning and rehearsal, an operation that, frankly, only the United States military could undertake. What I'd like to do this morning is talk to you through some of the preparation and the details without compromising any of our tactics, techniques, and procedures. There is always a chance that we'll be tasked to do this type of mission again. Our interagency work began months ago and built on decades of experience of integrating complex air, ground, space, and maritime operations. While the past 2 decades have honed the skills of our special operations forces, this particular mission required every component of our joint force, with soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians working in unison with our intelligence agency partners and law enforcement teammates in an unprecedented operation. We leveraged our unmatched intelligence capabilities and our years of experience in hunting terrorists, and we could not have done this mission without the incredible work by various intelligence agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and NGA. We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulously planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years, many missions over these last many years. This was an audacious operation that only the United States could do. It required the utmost of precision and integration within our joint force. And the word integration does not explain the sheer complexity of such a mission. An extraction so precise it involved more than 150 aircraft launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single purpose: to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas while maintaining the element of tactical surprise. Failure of one component of this well-oiled machine would have endangered the entire mission, and failure is never an option for America's joint force. Those in the air over Caracas last night were willing to give their lives for those on the ground and in the helicopters. Let me talk a little bit about the preparation. After months of work by our intelligence teammates to find Maduro and understand how he moved, where he lived, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, what were his pets. In early December, our force was set pending a series of aligned events. Key was choosing the right day to minimize the potential for civilian harm and maximize the element of surprise and minimize the harm to the indicted personnel so, as the president said, they could be brought to justice. And as the president said earlier today, weather in Venezuela is always a factor this time of the year. And over the weeks through Christmas and New Year's, the men and women of the United States military sat ready, patiently waiting for the right triggers to be met and the president to order us into action. Last night, the weather broke just enough, clearing a path that only the most skilled aviators in the world could maneuver through. Ocean, mountain, low cloud ceilings. But when tasked with a mission, this organization does not quit. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern Time last night, the president ordered the United States military to move forward with this mission. He said to us, and we appreciate it, Mr. President, good luck and Godspeed. And those words were transmitted to the entire joint force. Over the course of the night, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases on land and sea across the Western Hemisphere. In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night. Thousands and thousands of hours of experience were airborne. Our youngest crew member was 20, and our oldest crew member was 49, and there's simply no match for American military might. As the night began, the helicopters took off with the extraction force, which included law enforcement officers, and began their flight into Venezuela at 100 feet above the water. As they approached Venezuelan shores, the United States began layering different effects provided by Spacecom, Cybercom, and other members of the interagency to create a pathway. Overhead, those forces were protected by aircraft from the United States Marines, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the Air National Guard. The force included F-22s, F-35s, F-18s, EA-18s, E-2s, B-1 bombers, and other support aircraft, as well as numerous remotely piloted drones. As the force began to approach Caracas, the Joint Air Component began dismantling and disabling the air defense systems in Venezuela, employing weapons to ensure the safe passage of the helicopters into the target area. The goal of our air component was, and always will be to protect the helicopters and the ground force and get them to the target and get them home. As the force crossed the last point of high terrain where they'd been hiding in the clutter, we assessed that we had maintained totally the element of surprise. As the helicopter force ingressed towards the objective at low level, we arrived at Maduro's compound at 1:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 2:01 a.m. Caracas local time, and the apprehension force descended into Maduro's compound and moved with speed, precision, and discipline towards their objective and isolated the area to ensure the safety and security of the ground force while apprehending the indicted persons. On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit, but remained flyable, and as the president said earlier today, all of our aircraft came home, and that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission. As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and ground intelligence teams provided real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the complex environment without unnecessary risk. The force remained protected by overhead tactical aviation. Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by the Department of Justice, assisted by our incredible U.S. military with professionalism and precision, with no loss of U.S. life. After securing the indicted persons, the force began to prep for departure. Helicopters were called in to exfiltrate the extraction force, while fighter aircraft and remotely piloted aircraft provided overhead coverage and suppressive fire. There were multiple self-defense engagements as the force began to withdraw out of Venezuela. The force successfully exfiltrated and returned to their afloat launch bases, and the force was over the water at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with indicted persons on board. And both Maduro and his wife were embarked aboard the USS Iwo Jima. In closing, what we've witnessed today is a powerful demonstration of America's joint force. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we debrief, we rehearse again and again, not to get it right, but to ensure that we cannot get it wrong. Our jobs are to integrate combat power so when the order comes, we can deliver overwhelming force at the time and the place of our choosing against any foe anywhere in the world. I am immensely proud today of our joint force and filled with gratitude to represent them here today. There is simply no mission too difficult for these incredible professionals and the families that stand by them and support them. As we stand here this morning, our forces remain in the region at a high state of readiness, prepared to project power, defend themselves, and our interests in the region. This operation is a testament to the dedication and unwavering commitment to justice and our resolve to hold accountable those who threaten peace and stability. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the brave men and women who executed this mission. Their courage and tireless commitment to our nation are what makes us strong. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Mr. President.
Well, I don't have much to add to what you've heard now, other than the following points. Nicolas Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
make sure.
Yeah, exactly. But
don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this, we're going to take... This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States. And the president addressed it. There's a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now, very happy. But instead, he wanted to play big boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think that the message here should be for the world. Look, the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not generally wants to get along with everybody. We'll talk and meet with anybody. But don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office because it's not going to turn out well. And so I hope that, I guess that lesson was learned last night, and we hope it'll be instructive moving forward.
Is that a message for Cuba, Mr. President?
Structure, which will cause billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but that's going to be paid. And we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. As you know, it was just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have. But we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced out of Venezuela by this thug are also taken care of.
President, does the U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground? How will that work?
Well, you know, they always say boots on the ground. Oh, so we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it. But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. Could have gone very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to. We're going to run the country right. It's going to be run very judiciously, very fairly. It's going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people that were taken advantage of. We're going to take care of everybody. It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it. You know, they stole our oil. We built that whole industry there, and they just took it over like we were nothing. And we had a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about it. We're late, but we did something about it. Yeah, please.
Mechanism by which you're going to run the country? Are you going to designate a U.S. official to coordinate?
Yes, it's all being done right now. We're designating people. We're talking to people. We're designating various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
Would run Venezuela?
Well, it's largely going to be for a period of time the people that are standing right behind me. We're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead. You know, I talk about a dead country. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're a country doing better than any country anywhere in the world. And it required leadership. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others, we have fantastic people, including people in the military. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, and give people a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
Rubio would be...
You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship going?
I understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So just what your message is about that.
He has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And, yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
Mr.
President, did you notify any members of Congress in advance?
Marco, do you want to talk about that? Because you were involved in it.
Sure. We call members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
Plus, if I could add one thing to that, Congress has a tendency to leak. This would not be good. If they leaked, General, I think it would have been maybe a very different result. But I have to say, they knew we were coming at some point, you know. We had a lot of ships out there. They sort of knew we were coming. We went through. But Congress will leak, and we don't want leakers.
People to watch this all play out live. What was Maduro doing when the U.S. forces entered what I assume would be his home? And also, was there any point where the U.S. was considering if Maduro pushed back or resisted killing Maduro?
It could have happened. It could have happened. He was trying to get into a safe place. You know what a safe place is, all steel. And he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast. They went through the opposition so fast. And there was a lot of opposition. You know, people were wondering, do we get them by surprise? Sort of surprised, but they were waiting for something. It was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of gunfire. You saw some of it today. But he was trying to get to a safe place, which wasn't safe because we would have had the door blown up in about 47 seconds, they say on average, regardless of how thick the steel was. It was a very thick door. It was a very heavy door, but he was unable to get to that door. He made it to the door. He was unable to close it. Go ahead, finish.
To be in the time being right now. Do you know his exact
Well,
whereabouts?
eventually, ultimately, in the near future, he's going to be brought to New York.
And where is he going to be held? Where is he going to be held in New York? Do you know?
That's going to be up to the officials that do these things.
Mr. President, the U.S. has something of a mixed track record of ousting dictators without necessarily a plan for what comes afterwards.
Not with
Did
me.
that weigh on your decision?
Well, that's why we had different presidents, but with me, that's not true. With me, we've had a perfect track record of winning. We win a lot, and we win. If you look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, you look at the Midnight Hammer. Midnight Hammer was incredible. Right now, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. We have essentially peace in the Middle East because of that. If we weren't successful with Midnight Hammer, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. So, with me, you've had a lot of victory. You've had only victories. You've had no losses. Yeah.
How long do you expect the U.S. to run Venezuela, and how soon do you want the Venezuelan people to hold elections?
So I'd like to do it quickly, but it takes a period of time. You know, we're rebuilding. We have to rebuild their whole infrastructure. The infrastructure is rotted. It's actually very dangerous. It's blow-up territory. Oil is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to take out of the ground. Can kill a lot of people. It has killed a lot of people doing just that. The infrastructure is old. It's rotted. Much of it is stuff that we put there 25 years ago, and we're going to be replacing it, and we're going to take a lot of money out so that we can take care of the country. Yeah.
Are you saying that Secretary Rubio and
Mr. President, China, Russia, and Iran have interests in Venezuela. How does this operation affect your relationships with them when it comes to the oil and drugs?
In terms of China and Russia, Russia, when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to give it. In other words, we'll be selling oil probably in much larger doses because they couldn't produce very much because their infrastructure was so bad. So we'll be selling large amounts of oil to other countries, many of whom are using it now, but I would say many more will come.
Are you saying, Mr. President, are you saying that, Mr. President, are you saying that,
Mr. President, thank you. What is your message to the people of Venezuela today? Of course, the civilian population specifically, they have a lot of questions. What is your message to the people of Venezuela?
That you're going to have peace, justice. You're going to have some of the riches that you should have had for a long period of time. It was stolen from you. But you're going to have peace and you're going to have safety. You're going to have justice. You're going to have a country. You're going to have a real country. You're going to have potentially a great country. You know, if you go back 20 years, maybe even a little longer ago, that was a great country. And they destroyed it. Remember I said that if we lose this election, the United States will be Venezuela on steroids. That's what would have happened. Had we lost the election, the 2024 election, we suffered so badly. When you look at the border from 2020, what they did, what Joe Biden administration did to our country should never be forgotten. But if we had to go through another year of that, we would be exactly where Venezuela was. In terms, I used to say, if they win, we're going to be Venezuela on steroids, and that's what would have happened.
President, thank you. Are you saying that Secretary Hegseth and Rubio are going to be running Venezuela, and will you be sending in U.S. military
They're
troops
going to be
to
a
provide?
team that's working with the people of Venezuela to make sure that we have Venezuela right. Because for us to just leave who's going to take over? I mean, there is nobody to take over. You have a vice president who's been appointed by Maduro, and right now she's the vice president, and she's, I guess, the president. She was sworn in as president just a little while ago. She had a long conversation with Marco, and she said, we'll do whatever you need. I think she was quite gracious, but she really doesn't have a choice. We're going to have this done right. We're not going to just do this with Maduro, then leave like everybody else, leave and say, let it go to hell. If we just left, it has zero chance of ever coming back. We'll run it properly. We'll run it professionally. We'll have the greatest oil companies in the world go in and invest billions and billions of dollars and take out money, use that money in Venezuela. And the biggest beneficiary are going to be the people of Venezuela. And also, I can't stress this strongly enough, the people that got thrown out of Venezuela that are now in the United States, and frankly, some want to stay and some probably want to go back. Yeah.
In the country, and were any of the detained Americans?
Well, right now they're very protected because nobody's going to mess with us. They're very protected. The people of, and we let them know that you better not touch one of them.
And are you concerned that bad elements of the Maduro regime will remain in place?
Well, we know who they are. We're on them, and they're acting much differently now than they would have acted 2 days ago. Okay, wait, behind you, please.
Mr. President, why is running a country in South America America first?
Well, I think it is because we want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability. We want to surround ourselves with energy. We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world. And we want to make sure we can protect it. Yes, sir. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, is there a message here for Cuba and Diaz-Canel?
Well, Cuba is an interesting case. Cuba is, not doing very well right now. That system has not been a very good one for Cuba. The people there have suffered for many, many years. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about because Cuba is a failing nation right now, very badly failing nation. And we want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but we want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country. Do you want to say something about that, Marco, please?
Well, I mean, I just gave you a statement a few minutes ago about, when the president speaks, you should take him seriously. Suffice it to say, Cuba is a disaster. It's run by incompetent, senile men, and in some cases, not senile, but incompetent nonetheless. It has no economy. It's in total collapse. And by the way, they were, all of the guards that helped protect Maduro, this is well known, their whole spy agency, all that were full of Cubans. I mean, it's amazing. This poor island took over Venezuela in some cases. One of the biggest problems the Venezuelans have is they have to declare independence from Cuba that tried to basically colonize it from a security standpoint. So, yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned, at least a little bit.
Cutting off the oil flow to Cuba from Venezuela?
Well, the president already announced a week ago that anything that's sanctioned oil, it's not going to be allowed to get there. So that's a pre-existing.
The answer is yes. Yes.
Have you been in contact with her?
No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
Mr. President, on Monday.
I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect within the country.
Is it possible that the U.S. ends up administrating Venezuela for years?
Well, it won't cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial, so it's not going to cost us anything. We want safety there. We want to be surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world. That's what was happening, and you don't want to have that. But we're going to be rebuilding, and we're not spending money. The oil companies are going to go in. They're going to spend money. We're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago. A lot of money is coming out of the ground. We're going to get reimbursed for all of that. We're going to get reimbursed for everything that we spend. So it's going to be a very important. This is a very big evening that took place last night. We have to be surrounded by safe, secure countries, and we also have to have energy. Very important. We have to have energy that's real energy, not where they're getting 4% and 5% of the energy out of the ground. You take a look. It was such a disaster. So what's going to happen with Venezuela, I think, over the next period of a year, is going to be a great thing, and the people of Venezuela will be the biggest beneficiaries.
Going to send in the U.S. military.
Mr. President, thank you. What did you last speak to Maduro about when you spoke? And is the
Well,
US
I don't want to get into the conversations, but I did have conversations with him, and I said, you got to surrender. And I actually thought he was pretty close to doing so, but now he wished he did, yeah.
You said that Maduro is responsible for drug trafficking. You recently pardoned the former president of Honduras, who was convicted of many drug trafficking. Can you explain how these two situations are different? And would you ever pardon Maduro?
I endorsed, as you know, the winning president, the man who won in Honduras. I endorsed the man who won in Chile. I endorsed the man who won in Argentina. And we are doing very well with that whole group. What the man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump. That didn't work out too well for them. This was a man who was persecuted very unfairly. He was the head of the country. He was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did. And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why I gave him a pardon.
You referenced boots on the ground earlier. Can you just sort of button this up? Do you envision the U.S. military having a presence in Venezuela as the U.S. runs that country?
No, we're going to have a presence in Venezuela as it pertains to oil, because we have to have, we're sending our expertise in. So you may need something, not very much. But no, we're going to be taking out a tremendous amount of wealth out of the ground. And that wealth is going to the people of Venezuela and people from outside of Venezuela that used to be in Venezuela. And it goes also to the United States of America in the form of reimbursement for the damages caused us by that country. So I want to thank you all very much. Thank you. Do you have one? Yes, please. You were so nice before. I'm going to give you the final question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
Unless
President.
it's a bad question, in which case I'll go one word. It's about who?
It's about Putin, if you want.
About Putin. Well, that's always nice to talk about Putin.
You had a phone call with him on Monday. Did he talk at all about Maduro? Did y'all talk about this?
No, we didn't.
And
We
then,
never spoke about Maduro.
Are you mad at him right now? I mean, there's this
I'm not
intelligence.
thrilled with Putin. I'm not thrilled with Putin. He's killing too many people. I thought that would be so. I settled 8 1/4 war. You know what the 1/4 was? Thailand and Cambodia. I did it again. They broke out, and I did it in about 5 hours, and I settled it. I'm giving myself 1/4, so I'm up to now 8 1/4. In other words, I settled the war, but then they broke out. They had a pretty bad breakout over the last 4 days. I got them to go back to peace, so I only give 1/4. I thought the easiest one would be, one of the easier ones would be Russia, Ukraine. It's not, and they both have done some pretty bad things. And look, that's Biden's war. That's not my war. But I want to stop the lives. Did you see where last month, 30,000, it was 27,000 the month before. 30,000, mostly soldiers, were killed this last month. 30,000. I want to stop that. You know, I got NATO to pay 5% instead of the 2% that they weren't paying. They weren't paying 2, now they pay 5. And we send them a lot of munitions. We send them a lot of things, missiles and various other things, a lot. And they pay. The United States is not losing money. We're probably making money on that. It's the last thing I care about. I just want to stop all those people. We're losing 25, 30,000 human beings that come from 2 places that are very far away. But if I can stop, because it's something I've been pretty good at doing, deals, I guess. It's all a deal. Life is a big deal. But if I can stop that war and stop 30,000 young people, in addition to the fact that people are being killed in Kiev, people are being killed in other cities throughout, a much smaller number, but they're being killed, viciously killed. So I'm not happy about it. I thought that would be something that would get solved. We have Mr. Witkoff here. I think that we're making progress, but That's a war that should have never happened. If I were president, it would have never happened. Putin says it. Everybody says it. If I were president, that would have never happened. But I inherited that war. That was Joe Biden, Zelensky, and Putin. I came into the situation, and it's a mess. And I will say this. I watched an operation last night that was so precise, that was so brilliant. I mean, it was incredible. If we had our people, like this general and our people involved, that war would not have gone on very long, that I can tell you. That war, to use an old term, that war has become a bloodbath, and we want it to get stopped. Thank you very much, everybody.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that press conference was officially longer than the operation itself as he came out. Lots of stuff ended up coming out of that. It looks like we're going to be involved over in Venezuela for quite some time. Everybody that came in and donated, I really appreciate you guys doing that. Ended up making sure that all the ads were turned off throughout that entire thing for you guys, so that you guys were able to enjoy the words of the president and everybody else that was going in there. Pretty freaking long and hard. A lot of you guys had a lot of things to say as they started going through there. And mostly, I want you guys to hear this comment from Fox McCloud. He says, as somebody whose father and family members were political prisoners in a communist country today, it is a good day. And I do agree with that. Everybody else, we've got Rooney. It says he sounds and looks tired. Yes, he did. The man was up all night, probably, man. McSwayze, this man needs a 40 ounce and a nice MyPillow. Yeah, he does. Adam DLC. So now we own the cartels and drugs in Venezuela. Apparently we own the oil, and Marco Rubio made that quite clear. So no oil's leaving that country. Incog Faraday says, love his policies. Can we do without the long ramble? Yes, the ramble was officially longer than the operation itself. Yep, that happened. Sir, thanks a lot. Says, this puts some hair on your chest. Great news, and I love it. This is my president, and I am proud. I hope casualties were non-existent. That is correct. We did not take casualties to the best of my knowledge. He did say that somebody was injured and that there was a lot of gunfire. Other than that, not a lot else. Helicopter got hit, but it ended up flying out of the country on its own. Pat Loudon says, what took longer, the raid or the press conference? Well, Patrick Loudon, we just answered that for you. Mr. T360 says, congrats to the operators and the crew that missed another holiday with their families. God bless them all. I concur, sir. Copper Penny says, God bless America. Incog Faraday, Marco Rubio has been a pleasant surprise. I mean, I'm kind of with you there. Russender, I went back over and checked to go through my tags. I appreciate you doing that stuff on Maduro getting arrested. I haven't been able to find it. My feed is going wild today over on X. No, Landy says, wasn't expecting to wake up to this. Well, neither was I, to be perfectly honest with you. AP Payne coming in, giving out 10 Speak the Truth memberships. I saw Sky God drop 20 more as well. Michael Hale, thank you, Trump, for taking the drugs out at the source, not like the rest of the presidents that go into our population. Thank you. Yep, nailed it. And Castle Survival says this should have been named Operation Just Cause 2. Yeah. Woo, that's a lot of super chats that ended up coming out as you guys were over there watching. I want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, in the meantime, thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you guys for coming out today. Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you. God bless America. God bless the United States, and God bless our troops. Ladies and gentlemen, peace, love, happiness. God bless. I am out of here.
It seems to be an absolutely stunning mission to be able to drop in and take out a leader alive and remove him from the scene is just precision that's hard to comprehend at this point. And it really makes you wonder, how is this mission carried out? This is a dictator who has known for months he is under threat by the U.S., a dictator who has high levels of personal security, of mainly Cuban security. He doesn't even trust a lot of the Venezuelan military.